Hello, and welcome to Purina's series, Livin the Farm Life. We know the passion you have for caring for animals and for the life you live on your property, and also what it means to you and your family. At Purina, we do the same thing every day at our 1,300-acre Animal Nutrition Center in Gray Summit, Missouri. This is where we develop the latest in nutrition and care for over 7,000 animals annually across all major species, and have since 1926. It's also how several of us choose to live our lives. So we want to connect with you through the upcoming episodes that what we do here at our farm can help you enjoy and have success on yours. Now let's get started as we share our farm with you and we all enjoy living the farm life.
Hello and welcome to Purina's Livin the Farm Life series. We're here again at the Purina Animal Nutrition Center in Gray Summit, Missouri, and we're going to talk about feeding backyard deer. So we do have a deer research facility here just up the hill from where we're at, and I'm joined by Mr. Scott Hohensee, who is our Purina wildlife specialist and a good friend. And what Scott does is he works with our researchers here at the farm to develop product. He works with our big customers around the country, and he works with our dealers to help them with getting ready to supply product for you that want to feed deer in your backyard. So specifically today, Scott, we're going to talk about there's kind of a difference between the sportsman and the person that owns property, and I just want to sit on my deck at my house and I want to see deer come up and watch them at the edge of the woods.
Well, thanks, Kurt, for having me. And you know, being able to sit on your back deck, like you said, and watch deer in the evenings, or sitting there in the morning with a cup of coffee and watching the wildlife in your backyard, that's what it's all about, kind of deal. And we've got a little topic here today. We'll talk to you all a little bit about, you know, how to do that, kind of a setup and different products you can use, and how to use those products correctly in certain different situations and things like that is what we'll talk about this morning.
So if I got 1 acre, 3 acres, 5 acres, 100 acres, and I just want to attract deer and see them, how do I get started? What's the kind of product that I want to feed? How do I feed it? So those are some of the things that maybe we can talk about.
That's correct. You know, in that situation right there, Kurt, what you want to do is there's really 2 types of products that we have, and each of them has a little bit different role, and we'll go over that here in a little bit. But first of all, if you just want to attract deer to your backyard, to, you know, sit on your deck like we talked about, really the blocks are the way to go. A block is something it's a pressed form of feed that's compressed down anywhere from a 20 to a 33-pound block, but you can put it on the ground. Doesn't have any special equipment it needs to feed it and things like that. You just sit it on the ground and walk away. And a couple of different ones that we have, and also the difference between them is first of all, we have this one over here is the AntlerMax premium deer block. And what that block is basically is the AntlerMax Deer 20 pellet compressed down into a block form. So that one is designed from a nutritional aspect to really help with, you know, deer health and things like that. Then you move over to these 2 blocks over here, the premium deer block and the quick draw block, and those are designed more of an attraction block. They're going to have a lot more corn in it, whole corn and things like that, more molasses-based block of that nature. But they're all 3 are very popular for a backyard setting. They all 3 work very well, and for basically bringing in deer to a backyard. And kind of switching gears, also jumping into, you know, I said they're great for sitting on the ground, but they also work great in a little block feeder like you see right here. This is just a little feeder that you basically put in or strap it to the tree. You can load it up with a couple of blocks depending on the size of the block, 1 or 2 blocks, and the deer will find it, and even the squirrels and things like that will get to it pretty quick. So it keeps those blocks out of the rain if you have rainy areas or a lot of wet weather and things like that. So they work really well.
So these are a great attractant. It's kind of like candy.
Yes.
To draw them in.
Yes.
And there's some nutritional value, obviously, as well.
Yes.
But this, if you're worried about body condition and growing deer and antler growth, this is the kind of product that you want.
That's correct. It's more geared to good deer health and deer nutrition.
Okay. So there's blocks that you can put out, easy, convenient. I buy it, cut the plastic off, put it on the ground, put it in here. I know a lot of people that I'm familiar with, they say, well, I just feed corn. So good, bad, what are the issues around just feeding?
Corn is the most popular thing probably for feeding deer, whether it's sportsmen or backyard enthusiasts and things like that. But one thing you got to remember with corn is there's really no nutritional value. And in my opinion, if you're going to go ahead and feed something, whether it's on a large property or a small property or a backyard, you might as well feed something that's going to have a nutritional difference in nutritional value. And that's where the products like AntlerMax pellets come in. It's an actual pelleted feed that is designed for deer health, deer nutrition, and really keep those deer in good body condition when fed on a free choice basis. So
and I know at Purina we have quite a few products in the AntlerMax line.
We do.
So some of them are more, well, they're all water resistant as well, correct?
No, actually the one that's water resistant is going to be the Water Shield product right there in the blue bag.
Okay.
And what the difference is like the green bag right here, which you're going to see at all of our dealerships. It's the most popular product we have out there is the AntlerMax Deer 20. It's designed for free range deer. It's a 20% protein product. Then you move over to the AntlerMax Water Shield, which is going to be in the blue bag right here. It's the same product that's in the green bag, but it has a little bit of a water coating on it. It's not going to prevent it from absorbing any moisture, but when you put it in a trough or a thing like this protein feeder right here, it's going to help if you're in a rainy situation or snowy situation. It's going to help those pellets stay together a lot better than they would if they were just the AntlerMax Deer 20 product.
Okay. And then we have mineral here. What's the use and the benefits of feeding mineral?
AntlerMax Deer Mineral is very popular for backyard enthusiasts, but also sportsmen alike. It's just a product you pour it on the ground, directly in the ground, mix it in with the soil with a rake or a shovel and things like that. One thing about deer mineral is it's a great attractant also for a backyard. Deer are going to constantly come up to that location and take a couple nibbles of that mineral and go on about their day. But it's just another tool in the toolbox kind of deal.
Okay, so we talked about product. What about placement?
That's important.
So I got my house, I want to sit on my deck, I want to look out and see them, edge of the tree line or distance, or what are we looking at?
That's correct. There's a couple things on that, Kurt, that are really important. One is distance. A lot of deer, they don't feel comfortable out in wide open spaces. So like behind us here, you got some brush and a lot of heavy vegetation. Is keep that trough or that feeder along the brush line where they don't have to come out very far. Feel pretty comfortable with that. But that's also a good point too. Is these AntlerMax deer pellets are not designed to put on the ground. They're not designed to just take the bag of feed and pour it on the ground. You got to feed it either in a trough or a supplemental feeder like this one right here, or even that little feeder right there that sticks onto it straps onto the tree. It'll hold a bag of feed right there. Kind of a couple different things. There's a lot of different feeders out there on the market, a lot of great feeders on the market, but this is just some examples we had for you here today to kind of give you some ideas.
So this is a gravity feed supplement feeder. Now there's also a spin feeder that has a motor and a little blade, and it feed out. What's the difference between those?
Well, that's a good point, because a lot of times when we're talking to people about supplemental feeding deer, their comment is either going to be, well, I feed corn like we talked about earlier, or I've got a spin feeder. And a couple things you got to remember. When you're feeding pellets through a spin feeder, it doesn't work that well because those pellets sit on that spinner plate, and when you have a heavy dew morning, that's going to get a little bit of moisture on those pellets, and it's going to clog up that downspout where that feed comes out, so it doesn't always flow correctly. Pellets are shaped a little bit different than corn. So what I tell people is to go with a protein feeder of this nature or something like that on a tree for a backyard setting. It's going to feed those deer whenever they want to walk up and get a bite to eat. It's kind of a free choice situation. And one thing you also got to take into mind and consider on like a backyard or a little small property is if your goal is just to attract those deer, that's one thing. But if it's to actually make a nutritional difference in antler development, that's another thing. And what I mean by that, if you just want to attract deer, a block is great. Putting out a little bit of pellets every day is great. But if you want to make a nutritional difference in that deer for antler development, you have to feed them enough pellets on a daily basis to make that nutritional difference.
So when you put one of these out, they find it on their own, and then they become used to coming and eating there. So that's their daily. I know I can go get a good meal if I go here.
Correct.
And eat here. So size of property, what are we looking at as far as how much feed, how many feeders, Is there a formula for I got 1 acre, 2 acre, 3 acres, or how do I figure that out?
Yeah, something like that, Kurt, I would just go with one feed station. You know, and then whether it's a 300-pound feeder like this or the 50-pounder that would go on a tree or things like that, that's going to be enough feeder locations. Now, if you're talking 200-300 acres and things like that, then we're getting into a little bit different discussion.
Yeah. So this feeder, I'm guessing, is a couple hundred pounds?
It's about 300 pounders.
300 pounds?
Yeah.
So how long would that last me?
It's all depending on the number of deer you have.
Okay.
So it could last you 1 week, it could last you 30 days. It just depends on how many deer you have.
Okay.
So that's one question we get asked all the time is how long is it going to last? Well, it all comes down to how many deer you're trying to feed.
Yeah. And then I guess I know some people when they get started, they will maybe mix some corn and some pellet together in the feeder.
That's correct.
Because the corn is very much an attractant, and that kind of gets them started, and then you just kind of wean that away. And
that's very important. I'm glad you brought that up. Is you know, on a property, a lot of you guys out there, you know, if you were to just take those pellets and put them in that trough or that feeder, those deer don't have a clue that that's food. So you got to train them that those pellets are actually food. So what we do is you mix corn. Like if you were going to go put this up on your property right here, it holds 300 pounds. I would take a mix half and half, the AntlerMax Deer 20 with corn half and half, and don't fill it all the way up to 300 pounds. Just put a bag of each, 100 pounds in there. Let them eat that out, and then next time you fill it up, put a half a bag of corn with a bag of pellets and so forth till you finally wean out the corn over time, and then they're on it.
I know in certain parts of the country there's some regulations around can I feed, where can I put my feeder. So I would tell everybody that's watching this that wants to get into feeding backyard deer, first thing you want to do is check your local ordinances. Can you feed deer, and what are the rules and regulations around that? Absolutely. And then to find out more about feeding deer, getting product, getting feeders, go to PurinaMills.com, go to the dealer locator, and find the local Purina dealer close to you. So hey, Scott, thank you for telling us a little bit more about feeding backyard deer. Go get started. It's a lot of fun.
We hope you enjoyed this episode of Livin the Farm Life. Watch for future programs played the third Wednesday of the month we air at 5 p.m. Central Time. And as always, reach out to your local Purina dealer or PurinaMills.com for additional help and resources. So until next time, enjoy your farm.